Hello and welcome to Math Blossoms, where growing in mathematics is natural. For today's lesson topic, we are going to be doing translations on a coordinate plane. Now let's get prepared for today's lesson. We're going to need a pencil, hopefully with an eraser in case we make any mistakes. We also need a piece of paper to take notes, and we need some graph paper so that we can plot some points and do some translations on a coordinate plane. A ruler or straight edge is optional for this lesson, so it may help you to draw some straight lines, but it's not necessarily required. Don't forget to pause the video from time to time to answer practice questions. That is the best way to learn, is to stop, try the question yourself, and then look at the answer and see if you've made any mistakes or if you got it correct. Also, rewind the video if you need to review anything before trying to answer a question. Okay, so before we grow our vocabulary, I'm Miss G, the teacher, and we like to clear our head before we start focusing on math and try to get rid of some of those thoughts that might be distracting us today. So let's do some deep breaths. We're going to do 3 deep breaths. We're going to breathe in our nose and out our mouth, and we're going to hold it for 3 counts, okay? So breathe in the nose, hold it 1, 2, 3, and breathe out your mouth. Okay, one more time, breathe in your nose, hold it 1, 2, 3, breathe out your mouth. Okay, one more time, breathe in your nose, hold it for 1, 2, 3, breathe out your mouth. Okay, I like to do that before I start any new topic so that I can kind of get rid of things that might be jumbling up in my mind. So let's go ahead and get started with some of this vocabulary. Okay, the first word we're going to talk about is coordinate plane. That is actually what you're looking at the screen there, is a coordinate plane. It is a graph or a grid pattern with 4 sections. And a transformation is our next word. A transformation is when we change a shape by changing its location, its orientation, or its size on a coordinate plane. The origin is the center point of our coordinate plane, which is the point 0, 0, or right there in the center. The x-axis is the axis that runs horizontally or from left to right, and the y-axis is the axis line that runs up and down. So horizontal is left to right, which is the x-axis, or this line here. And then the y-axis runs a vertical way, up and down. Ordered pairs always come in x, then y, so that we know we need to move our right or left first, and then move our up and down second when we're looking at ordered pairs or plotting ordered pairs or coordinate points. And then a translation is what we're going to be studying today, and that's a type of transformation. In fact, it's a type of a rigid transformation, one that creates a congruent shape, or a shape that is identical to the original. It just is in a different location after we translate it. It's a slide, so if it helps, I will go ahead and write slide here so you'll know translations are when we slide a figure left, right, up, or down. Now there are 3 lesson essential questions that we're going to answer today. The first one is define a translation on a 2-dimensional coordinate plane. We're also going to ask, how do you translate a point or a geometric shape on a coordinate plane? And the third one is compare and contrast examples of translating words, from words with translating from math symbols and numbers. Okay, so translations are rigid transformations where a geometric point or shape is moved, or a slide, to the right, left, up, or down along the coordinate plane. Translations do change the position, but do not change the size or the orientation of the shape. They also create congruent shapes. So let's look at this one here. We have a triangle ABC here, and it looks like it's been translated up and to the right a little bit here. So let's look at 2 different ways that we could write this translation out. The first way is in words. So I would say, okay, triangle ABC here, which is the pre-image or the blue triangle, has been translated 4 to the right and 1 up to make triangle A prime, B prime, and C prime, or the image. Okay, now if you don't know what pre-image and image is, I advise you to watch my video on introduction to transformations before you start doing the translation or dilation or rotation or reflection videos, because it kind of gives you an overview about what these things are. Okay, so if you haven't watched that one, go back and watch that one before you do this one. Okay, math symbols, notation. If I were to write this same translation, not in words, 4 to the right and 1 up, I would write it this way. 4 to the right means I'm adding 4 to all of the x values, and 1 up means I'm adding 1 to all of the x values. If I was going left on the x, I would be subtracting 4. If I was going down on the y, I would be subtracting 1. But this is right and up, so I'm going to be adding 4 and adding 1. So what that means is if I take my points, oops, excuse me, I went too far. If I take these points A, B, and C and listed those coordinate points and added a 4 to all of the x's and then added a 1 to all of the y's, I'm going to end up with this A prime, B prime, C prime point. Let's try one and just to see what I'm talking about. So here at the origin point, if I go negative 1, 2, 3, 4 and positive 1 up, that's going to give me this point, negative 4 and positive 1. Now, if I add 4 to this negative 4, that's going to put my x at 0, because negative 4 and positive 4 added together makes a 0. And then if I add 1 to this 1 here on the y, I'm going to get a 2. So let's check our A prime and see if it's correct. So yes, the A prime is located at the 0 on the x and the 2 value on the y. Okay, so here's some more examples of translations here. So first of all, we have triangle IRT and then I prime, R prime, and T prime. So it looks like this one just translated to the right a little bit and then it translated down. But notice the I and the R in the triangles are still in the same orientation. They're still on the top and on the right here, and on the top and on the right here, and the T is both on the bottom of both triangles. So the orientation did not change. So it did not turn, it did not flip around, it just slid to the right and then slid down. Same with the second triangle. We have triangle ABC here, and then A prime, B prime, and C prime. It looks like this triangle just went to the left a little bit and then went down a little bit. So notice the A and B is still in the same location or orientation, but it has just been moved. The C is still on the bottom, the AB is still on the right in both figures. Now we have this trapezoid over here, ABCD, and notice the ABCD on the pre-image here is the same as the A prime, B prime, C prime, and D prime. So since this is the pre-image, this means it had to have moved left and then up in order to become that image here. And then this is another couple of trapezoids here. This is our pre-image here, triangle LMNO, and it is going to translate to the right and then also up to create triangle L prime, M prime, N prime, and O prime up here. Or excuse me, not triangle, trapezoid. L prime, M prime, N prime, and O prime. Now we have these two image T's. Now this is a little misleading because they probably should have labeled this as pre-image instead of image, because but they're just calling this T an image T. But it is the pre-image because it's the one we started off with. And then it looks like we just translated it to the right a little bit and then down to make, you know, A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime over here for this image. Okay, expressions of translations. So again, there are multiple ways you can write a translation out. You can write it in words. So let's look at some of those ways. Translations are often expressed in words, math symbols, numbers, or a combination of both. So let's look at some of these. Examples of translations in words look like this. Let's translate 4 units to the left and 7 units down. That's basically telling you in words what to do to that geometric shape. We're going to just move it 4 units left and 7 units down. Also translate 1 unit to the right and 2 units up. That's another way that's just listed in words. Now here is a combination of numbers and words. So here we have translate 4 units, but this time they use the number 4 instead of writing out the 4, which is fine. You still understand that you're going to translate it 4 units left and 7 units down, but this time they're just using a combination of numbers and words. Now here is the math symbols and numbers for translations. So here we have x minus 4 and y minus 7. That means we're going to move the x left 4 spaces and then down 7 spaces, since it's minus 4 and minus 7. Okay. Now on this second one here, x plus 1 and y minus 2, that means we're going to move the x to the right 1. But we're still going to go down on the y 2 spaces because it's still a minus 2 here, not a plus 2. If it was a plus 2, we would go up. Now here is an example 2. This is a translation notation here where they use numbers and symbols. And this just means for every xy point, we are going to change it by subtracting 1 to the x and adding 2 to the y. This is our indication that a translation is occurring. Now, how do we do translations? I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to do a translation. Don't be overwhelmed because this is a lot of words I'm going to put up here in just a moment. I am going to take you through this step by step, and we're going to do one of each type. Okay, so the first one is the counting method. Okay, this is best used when we have a graph. If we don't have a graph, it's kind of hard to use this. But when there is a graph involved or a coordinate plane involved, we can use this counting method, and it tends to be the simplest way to do it. Look at the written symbolic or numeric directions for the translation of x. Okay, so we're going to do that by looking at these directions here. It says, example, translate triangle ABC 4 units right and 2 units up. Okay, so that's telling us in words that we're going to take this triangle ABC, we're going to translate it 4 units right and 1 unit up. Now, step 2 says to determine how many units or spaces to translate the x, right or left, and it tells you in the instructions what to do, so we didn't have to think too hard on that one. But then it says starting from the pre-image point, move right if there is a plus symbol and move left if there is a minus symbol following the x. Okay, so this is where it's a little different. So when we start counting, we're not going to start at the origin. Normally when we plot coordinate points, we would start at the origin. Well, since we're moving or sliding or translating this shape here, we need to start at each point to move that point to its new location. So we're going to start at A, and we're going to move that point 4 units to the right and then 1 unit up. And when we get to that point, we're going to mark it with a little dot, and we're going to label it A prime. Now it says to do this for every single point. So again, you're determining how many units or spaces to translate the y up or down. You're going to start where you moved the x. So we started at the A, we moved the x first, then we moved the y up, and then we made our point. Okay, so let's try B. B, we're going to move it 4 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 up. That's going to be B prime right there. It's very close to C there. And then the last one is our C point. We're going to move it to the right 4 times, and then 1 up, and there's our C prime. Now, the last thing to do is just to connect our A, B, and C so that we can draw our A prime, B prime, and C prime triangle. So notice the triangle is the same size and same orientation. It just has been moved to the right and up. Now, for the rectangle D, E, F, and G, we're going to use the second method on how to do translations. Now, the reason I'm showing you two is sometimes they don't give you the graph. Sometimes they just give you a list of coordinate points or ordered pairs. And your job is to come up with the new ordered pairs without using a graph, okay? So there is a way to do that. So let's look at the instructions. For a rectangle DEFG, we're going to translate it x minus 3 and y plus 1. That means for every x value, we're going to subtract 3, and for every y value, we're going to add 1. Now on a graph, that means we're just going to move left 3 and then plus 1 and make our new point. But when we don't have a graph, we can't really use that counting method. So in that case, what we should do is we should get our original pre-image points. So pretend the graph isn't there and we just have these instructions, and we have these points here, these pre-image points: 1, -6, 7, -6, 7, -10, and 1, -10. Okay, we're going to subtract 3 from every single x value, and then we're going to add 1 to every single y value. So after you subtract 3, so 1 minus 3 would be -2, and then -6 plus the 1 would be -5. So our new points would look something like this after we subtract 3 from all of the x values and then add 1 to all of the y values. And now we have our new points, and that is our answer when we're using a translation rule without a graph. We just have to list the points. And here is an example of what that would look like after we translate it: -3, or to the left 3, and up 1 unit. Okay, now it's your turn to try and grow a blossom. So in this case, I want you to translate this triangle by triangle JKL 2 units to the left and 6 units down. So after you translate it, you're going to need to write the coordinate points of the pre-image and the image. Now, I understand that it may seem like a waste of time to write down the new points, but remember, this is practice. So the more you have practice in locating those points and writing them down and writing the new points down, you'll get really faster at it, and that's why I'm asking you to do both. So go ahead and pause the video, and I'll count to 3 so you can try to translate this triangle. 1, 2, 3. All right, so the new triangle, J prime, K prime, and L prime, should look something like this, okay? And when you wrote the points down, you could have written down the pre-image points first and then the image points after you translated it. All right, let's try to grow a second blossom. So we're going to translate triangle LMN 1 unit right and 4 units up. So what are the coordinate points of the pre-image and the image? So let me go ahead and give you that triangle, LMN. We're going to translate it 1 unit right and 4 units up. So I'm going to ask you to pause, and I'll count to 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, our new triangle should be in this location here, L prime, M prime, and N prime. And the pre-image and the image points should look something like this. All right, our third blossom is now using a notation. I'm asking you also if you'd like to use a table. Here is a table that could help you. And when I show you the answers, I will list them in the table form there. So triangle PQ, R, and S, and I've asked you to translate it x plus 12, y minus 4. Pause. 1, 2, 3. All right, the new triangle should have these new image points, or rectangle, not triangle. And P prime, Q prime, R prime, and S prime should look something like this green rectangle over here after you translate it 12 to the right and 4 down. All right, the fourth blossom is kind of working in reverse. I'm going to give you the pre-image here of rectangle A, B, C, and D. And I would like for you to use the table and then write in words, symbols, and numbers what the translation would be. So I will give you the image of A prime, B prime, C prime, and D prime. And your job is to write down what the translation rule would be in math symbols or in words what the translation would be. 1, 2, 3. All right, so here's what it would look like for the words. It would be translate rectangle ABCD 3 left and 9 down. So this whole rectangle here moved 3 to the left and then 9 down. In notation, it should look like this. For every XY point, we are translating it X minus 3 and Y minus 9. That indicates that we go 3 left and 9 down, and our new point should look like these pre-image points here and these image points on the right. All right, so now it's your turn to grow the fifth blossom and the final blossom before we get to our essential questions. Find the image points of triangle A prime, B prime, C prime with coordinate points. A is -2, 3, B is 4, 0, and C is -5, -1. After being translated, for every XY point, we are translating it X plus 2, Y minus 7. So I will ask you to write a table if necessary. And go ahead and try to find what those points would be. So I've given you the pre-image points, and your job is to translate it using the rule and list the image points. So I want you to pause and I'll count. 1, 2, 3. All right, and this is something that you may have written down if you used a table. The pre-image points are here, -2, 3, 4, 0, and -5, 1. We have added 2 to every X and then subtracted 7 from every Y. So our new points would be 0, -4, 6, -7, and -3, -8. All right, so pause and answer this first essential question for a blossom. Define a translation on a two-dimensional coordinate plane. So go ahead and pause it. All right, answer is translations are rigid transformations where a geometric point or shape is moved or a slide to the right, left, up, or down along the coordinate plane. Translations do change the position, but do not change the size or the orientation of the shape. Translations create congruent shapes. Our second essential question, I would like you to pause and try to answer it on your own. So go ahead and do that. How do you translate a point or a geometric shape on a coordinate plane? Well, the answer is if a graph is provided, then use the counting method. Start at the pre-image point and count along the coordinate plane the correct amount of units in the X direction and then the Y direction. Next, plot and label the new image point. If the graph is not provided, use the translation rule method. Start by listing the pre-image coordinate points, add or subtract to or from the X and Y values based on what the translation rule states. Next, list and label the new image point. And the third essential question is compare and contrast examples of translating from words with translating from math symbols. All right, so answer is translations can be written in words, math symbols, numbers, or a combination of them. An example would be for every xy, x plus 2 and y means the same as translating 2 units right, but to not translate any up or down. A second example would be for every xy point, we are going to keep the x and add 7 to the y. That means the same as do not translate left or right, but translate 7 units up. And then the third example here is for every xy point, we're going to subtract 3 and add 8. So subtract 3 to every x and add 8 to every y. That means the same as translating 3 units down and 8 units up. All right, yay! We are at our Grow Your Vocabulary review, so we're going to review this vocabulary one more time. This cute little puppy dog walking through the blossoms is going to help us out. Our first word is coordinate plane, which is the graph or grid pattern that is divided into 4 sections with an XY axis. Transformation is when we change a shape by changing its location, orientation, or size on a coordinate plane. The origin is the center point of a coordinate plane, or the point 0, 0. The x-axis is our horizontal axis, or the one that goes left to right. The y-axis is our vertical axis, or the one that goes up and down. Horizontal, once again, is left and right, and vertical is up and down. Ordered pairs are always in the form of X then Y, so remember that's alphabetical order. So it's going to tell us the X direction is either going to be Y if it's positive, and right if it's positive, left if it's negative, and the Y is going to be up if it's positive and down if it's negative. And the last word is translation, which is a type of rigid transformation in which a shape is going to move or slide in either right, left, up, or down direction. So it's going to create a congruent shape. The location is going to change, but its orientation and its size will not change. All right, so great work, everybody. A bouquet of math blossoms has opened up in your mind today on translation. So to further improve your math language skills, remember to practice every day by doing your classwork and your homework. Study for at least 10 minutes a day. If you have time, do more. Ask for help if needed. So have a study buddy or ask your teacher. Learn from any mistakes that you make. So try not to repeat mistakes if you make them. And then always try. Never give up, even if it gets hard. Sometimes it takes a little while to get it, but the more you try, the easier it gets. So I'm Miss G, and I wanted to thank you for watching Math Blossoms today. And for more information about this topic on transformations, check out our new video on reflections, which is the next transformation, non-rigid type of transformation that we're going to study. So thank you again, and for everybody, now it's time for me to say, it was lovely teaching you math today. Bye-bye.